Give me your heart. Give me your heart. See, the proof that you follow something is our kuma di echiro. And that's why I ask you, say, the 25th, okwa, that day, no one say, obiya sere. When did they pay you? 18th. I must come and work there. I must come and work there. 18th, I say, oh dear, I say, tight, go 20th. This bosom so it wouldn't even now decide any baby. Oh, last one, no. But you don't mind me. So he said, let your heart, my son, give me your heart. Any sacrifice that doesn't come from the heart, God doesn't take it to. And the proof that you have given God your heart is that your eyes are observing the ways of God. Philo, when a guy says that Philomeni Joma kuma diwechia, then also yema also na kuma dinechi. So 1 week one thing nka na kuma diwechi. Na kuma di baby. And so in the same vein, many of us, and on the last day, we will not have any reward because our heart, they have not followed God. They have not followed God. If at this time we have to call you to come to church, we have to beg you, as one man see, your heart is not following God. Your heart is not following God. And so many of us, we should be prepared for surprises on the last day or day chino. Say, because we need to be here. When something good happens to the person, you're also excited. See, boxers. Their wives, they don't fight the battles on blows and they shini kuna from on GBO. No, or see, yes, you don't, near Bockwin and knee pie. See, yes, we almost watch a belt. We are winners. You trace Ghana. What's the family, dear mammy? In the Ukubi. How come, say, when you're bunikuna, one also in a reho? It's because Nakuma dear chiri. Because Okuma dear chira. Whatever happens, everyone will. And so when you see, if you claim to follow God and you want to offer things to God, where's your heart? Where's your heart? There are people when they go to school and they near so go school because they might miss seminar, sorry, seminar. There are people you makwanya say be makwanya be 10th or maybe 17th because if you for be any time you makwanya. No, or the yellow runners. But when your heart is for things, that's why I made that saying go. We've got to do more. Your name be brave. Your name be brave. And anywhere down. See, the time you can play the drums, no. At the age of 72, to be jump. Dear Panabo at the age of 72, no be now say in Kolan so no. And so if you have anything to do, we do it now and we let our heart follow God. Amen. Number 2, I said the second thing that today we are going for evangelism. There are people as we close no be kofie. Na kuma ni nie chiro. O wi na ne ho chire na. So for easy so for. Mumu bi obrebro ha de nyame ayama ka okran keni kwese ka okon hide dan ka nyame fie na wote. There are people what God has the many escapes that you've gone through. A dan keni kwese on hand bi o se ka nyame fie na wote. Now so na pa de wabrabo nyina ba for dia nyame. Filo de nyame yema wi. I don't need to, you don't need to tell me the test them banana. See what God has done for you. The nyame ayama. Number 2 is our might and our strength. When we follow God, the second thing we sacrifice to God is our might and our strength. Any sacrifice without strength, without might, it's not from God. Tina obi ohana na need the football etia. Almost say ultimate na football 4 hours. 4 hours. Omo mu di telenovela echi. And next Sunday, you point sorry or go share the omnibus. believers. Or from 1 p.m. to say 5 on 5 hours. Not to you say one channel Monday, Tuesday, or share you. There are people, the reason they can't come to church during the midweek because or novella. But Opa Yenka say, and yeah, sorry. First service, if you have second service from 1 to 6. And then one benko. And then Mukasi initiate on. Initiate but now sorry, 1 p.m. Say Aden, so for Aden. This Friday we are having it all night. There are people Opa and found before Bekenya on Mao. Hey Opa ka French on Mao. And see, understand that when you claim to follow God, you give God your strength. You give God your strength. So let's go. Mark 12 verse 30. You've got to do more in this place. You've got to do more in this place. You've got to do more in this place. You've got to do more in Mark 12 verse 30. This place you've got to do. He said, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God. Also be do ready. He said, with all your heart. Look at what he began with your heart. Because wakuma nyechira and I didn't say now osre. Now osre. Because when you look at footballers, and last week I used myself as an example that those times Kotoko match, Steven, Chai. And then meaning the Omubompo. Kotoko match. Sunday, a yatre. Has me following now from those times net team your friend is Max Bees. Na me to commentary baku mienu miensa and nine back me we keche baku kotko yeshe kotko on me ra ho kopim say one day ye bok 3-0 enumre bi timi hu de me ye kramitifie na so de ma me ko ne nam Steven timi nama na me kopie be na hotel bi ho na kotko place ho no moda player back or bobo ni bi pa na wa check your bishe ehye kona bio na afin fam ebridi bradam ena o recordo ena me say player na me ka say me kura me mobo ni bi no from that day na some people mo she ko 1000 and family be why my heart left. And see, many of us, Mark 11:12-30, to Mark 12:30 say, and thou shalt love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with your soul, and with your mind, and with your strength. When you are sacrificing, from tomorrow to Friday, we are fasting. Fasting is renew. Fasting involves a lot of. Also fasting in now when I'm fasting and you no, but so for me fasting I come to me. Me pa cho when I fasting I know amen. Oh fasting I know amen because I'm amen. It will cost you something, but when we follow God, we sacrifice our strength. Sacrifice our strength. Our strength. Also all night I be me point you on my bre. Obi abreo, Stephen. Obi abreo. But abayifone no man ko adwuma ye ba 12 on down no to no ko now to wabre wada. We've got to do more for Jesus. Your name I Yesu Vic and then you some years to come you don't have all this strength. You've got to do. So he said sacrifice your strength. And so when you follow God, it will cost you your strength. Like as we close today, we'll go for evangelism. There are people that because ewiabo. So for more shit. But to Pam Obin can change say, my dear Bachar Frosting. Sandra nti ene obisi share me in Sawem 2 p.m. for $10,000. Ne wie boa wa friends empacho wie bon timi mba obey sade no Sandy pacho obey. But there's something bigger and better than these things. And so when we serve God, it will cost us our strength. Because you are holding from. That's why I said, remember now your Creator in the days of your youth. Whilst the evil day draweth nigh, for you to say that you have no pleasure in them. If Omran to brim, when to man sum nyamia, people of God, hey, unko brim yes, I'm a bit masum nyamio. When we were in secondary school, now we were Form 1. And one day, seniors me no be ba prep. And no man come class or your class on tonight. To know what me say. Prep no by one be so deal. Or your love letter. The whole 2 hours 7 to 9 or your love letter. To one trail letter na you. Na girl needing the Evelyn. Make hyper because now Evelyn spelling I didn't our munchain. We see a spelling Evelyn. I yet never pardon mammy to school fees. And if that young fees it is, oh, mammy never pay 2 school fees. I thought trunk, chop boss as stockade your new home. Upa school, love letter. From 3 years old, says, "Ultimate spelling Evelyn." Now, chemistry not be my spelling. No, they are struggling to spell Evelyn. Now, for one boy, to yes, what it means because also a boom, also a boom. To Dina, we see EVLN, we see EVLLIN. We. One can say, but change spelling is that. But when you see the passion and the strength they have given to write a love letter for a girl who, in the years, they will not even see where the girl is. But when you follow God, see, it is now you can use your strength to serve God. And then I'll bet you on the assume and then I'll bet man nantiafa bridge nature bar sorry. If you can't do it now, a certain age of your life, you can't do it too. Those times when we were in campus, we used to pray every day from 12 to 4, every day in the university. Now one day, a bomb pie you know, name more, me bigger tone, na atiafem. Stephen, unne date to fame. Ya bomb pie no, kwaba kubi, no shit. Pabwa kesa kesebi ti park so ti ebon se order ina mesoma katemne rakato se frete se sunka pata likepete me concern akwane dan wo da hia me ti mu ese ne tie me more so afi more na tia femi eno ye sorry so no ati more adiechi I was still there. Because understand that when you serve God, it involves your strength. It involves long hours of prayer. We don't pray long because we are pastors. So every believer, that's why I read Matthew 26, verse 41. Last week I read it. Then Matthew 26, verse 40. You've got to do more for Jesus. You've got to do more for Jesus. And he cometh unto the disciples, Matthew 26:40, and said, and findeth them asleep. About no matter. And this was a prayer service. He said, "Dum Friday all night. There are people that will come for the all nighter. Ye preach here, wada." And said unto Peter, "What? Could you not watch with me 1 hour? To wait minimum when don't cry." People of God. When you're a believer, you must learn how to train yourself to pray 1 hour minimum. Minimum. On your own. On your own. Verse 43. And he came and found them asleep again. To buy no matter no nyane wo say, hey, musori mumpae. And he came and found them asleep again, for their eyes were heavy. 45. Then cometh he to his disciples and said, sleep on now and take your rest. Behold, their hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed in the hands of sinners. Also, I feel the much mida. The BC and the SAV. People of God, there are some issues that if you don't handle it now, the BC and the SAV. There are certain breakthroughs, if you don't get them now, the BC and the SAV. See, at the age of 85, now be below $1 million then and be. I didn't know one family at the age of 23, 35, and now 40. 85. There are some things that you can only enjoy, but it takes prayer to push them. And so we sacrifice our strength. Bible can kind enough for more. That's what the devil knows, that when you read your Bible, you'll be strong. Into offer Bible now, most of our beginning on it, you know, then. I then I wait my day be 8 hours so. Offer Bible pen when you come. Yeah, on you say. Say what the whole night, what there are people call the Bible no come kind. The real correct because they be the Bible. Omo case is different. Omo the end is different. Say, ono osoreno pa. No, was sorry, I say, I me dasi. Miss Anna, me shame some sorry upon Mompae, or them dasi. Or say, Miss Anna upon me, Tunyum, Nama Tunyum Bako. No, too. You've got to do more for Jesus. I've got to do more for Jesus. I've got to do more for Jesus. I've got to do more for Jesus. Watch across. Pa. Oko, on econo. And you require the new crafty. But following God, sometimes when you are looking for souls, it will cost you your strength. Oh, friend, who call on a pass one fat. Who say corn who pass one fat. Oh, friend, I told you of one pastor, the pastor who is coming on Friday, one of his pastors. Oh, she a gentleman, be no. On a Kenyan message or so, being invited about sorry. And also, okay, Ghana shaman. It's an over par bear 7 or call, Kwana Johnny. And no call, sorry. The following week, and no call was 6. This is a quantity piffing them 7 or 10 down, pepe. Shia, and all Duano, Bessie uncle. The following week, call 7 or 6 and now Kwana Johnny to a call 4 a.m. and what telling the enemy. When we get to heaven, there are people that God will applaud. Angels will celebrate for their service to the kingdom and the sacrifice. To go and stay in somebody's house at 4 a.m. Takwani piano. No near to cost over for and over sorry. And no. The following week, I call 4 or 10 or 7 or boom, no Johnny. Call 12 a.m. We share any near that thing. I say, what from wedding 12 a.m. We wake up in all. I can't say, hey, if you confirm me, I'm sorry. There are people who call 12 the following day on the whole crying or cockra. When we follow God, number one, we sacrifice our heart. Number two, sacrifice our strength. Sacrifice our strength. One day somebody was accusing me, he said, "Ne mama knew we, na meant mama 1 week." And I say, "Hey, dear no. Oh, mama knew 1 week meant mama, tini buofu." And I make a choice, say, "Hey, maybe you'll be a juman." Na say, Obi mami nue otobia mami nue 1 week na me ba mo yes and one obia ma and he say adwuma no say me jayo Becky adwuma say me jayo because enema ko permission Say ni mami nu ewu. Na makwaji we permission. Ne wo fa ewu 1 week. Eye ni nyama yo. Na say 1 week kra na mama na ene ye do say me better 3 days. Me ko bo no mu yifunu no kra me be senko. You've got to do more in this place. Number 3. The third thing we sacrifice to God is our money and our resources. It's our money. In 1 Chronicles 29, verse 1 and 2. We've got to do more in this place. 1 Chronicles 1, verse 29. 1 Chronicles 29, verse 1 and 2. It says, furthermore, David the king said unto all the congregation, Solomon my son, whom alone God hath chosen, is yet young and tender, and the work is great. For the palace is not for man, but for the Lord God. For the palace, the temple, is not for man, it's for God. Ami adwuma na nyini pade o. Nti ne fe ne nyame ade adwuma. Nti de also be ya odbe bo nyame adwuma na waye o. Or say for the work is not for the palace is not for man but for God. Because nyame adwuma na ebe no ye beja wako ama ebi fofo den abeto aso. Verse 2. He said, now I have prepared with all my might for the house of my God the gold for things to be made of gold. There are things that should be made of gold. Gold. One of the reasons why that we are blessed with air conditioners is that we had a very big fan this year. Fan kesibnesia. Ne fan ko na to need Philo's fan because also pena Philoja. Na fan yi de kukukukukukuku inti ye streaming na we now ko ba say fan na preaching afa. Fan ne sipe go preaching him. There are things that are made of gold. And we are supposed to use gold for them. And David said he prepared himself. See, when you're a believer, as we enter the month of as we are in a month of sacrifice, moving to a day of sacrifice, there should be certain gold you have prepared for the kingdom. And for silver, the things of silver, and the brass for things of brass, and the iron of things of iron, and the wood of things of wood, onyx stones and stones to be set, glistering stones and of diverse colors, and all manners of precious stones and marble stones. What is the last 2 words? 2 Chronicles 29 verse 2. What's the last 2 words? In abundance. People of God, one of the things that we should learn is that when we follow God and we are sacrificing, one of the things that we sacrifice our money and our resource. When your heart follows a thing, sacrificing your money and your resource is never a problem. Entino ubitimi a trabet ibi abe 200 cedis. Na bed for need the belt and fat. The following week, so Mama if I win to so 150. Into every time, bia ubefa baby boys, you know, both teams to score under 0.5. And every time their money is going into bet, you know. Why can't they stop? Now come on, Agushim. When you follow God and we can't find your treasure in the kingdom, You're not following God. Okumanim. Okumanim. Hey, even the most spiritual ladies in church, a ma omu say o de obanyam hwe say we die the piece of buzo ono kra no koyi move na one fa pocket tight is an kan wa ono kra ntwemo. And so when David was about to die, he told the people, including Solomon, that I have prepared gold with all my might to my whole thing now. When we talk about sacrifice, last week I explained to you. Say Obi Ekra 500 cedis. Stephen, 500 cedis. Now day of sacrifice Oba. Now Obe bring me 20 cedis. Do you think it's sacrifice? Oh, are they? That's what you be by. Are they in sacrifice? Are they in sacrifice? Oh no, can 20 citizens say in free na kumem? Are they in sacrifice? They are can a dozen. When we talk about sacrifice and sacrifice, see, as for offerings, it's something that we do like repeatedly. Offerings and sacrifice difference woman. Ain't now boom say, or baby woman say, wakoto weeks, bear 4. Baku from Baku Madini and from Medina. And we be a bear 150 cedis. But we be on baby 700 800 cedis. So we gonna whole year, what shall I say? 3. Because a soon woman or born by the Okoton Madina. Any a shaman. And no dear. What me do if you cannot because I will untui. But your toya is some bono. Tell and we are so for crying, be our friend, our minister. Now do all you goom. On you so amen. Why you bonike see? So panacho. So do you go wig now? What bray? I could talk. Why? Akuma. Whatever your heart follows, your quality resource also follows. Adibia wakuma diechire biano. Wakuma diechire biano. O resource adi diechire no enye small one. To be almost say it do ni girl birthday or bokapa. Show boy. What's our friend Auntie Becky? Or say did you feel it? Most say saying 60. Money 120 the or say there be any money no be mame. Money no be mame. Most say fish na saying. Fish na am do so. Pacho money na 4. Pacho eggs no money na saying. Pacho no man fa motorbike the back go hwegu. Ebe ba na steal no cry den. Aw yaye ho. Pacho mo fa boat. Mi amede metua. But you boat so mon pay there on driving video do 20 boas no hey and found in minutes be do don't too boas and famra mo say girl need to ha need the pure say odi we ground for kwa na wase odi we ground for kwa na wase odi we say what did you feel? You know, dear feeling one. And so many of us, when we follow God, there are things that we should be able to look at and say that this one I'm involved in by sacrifice. By the grace of God, all the things that you see in this auditorium, you are found. There are people who sacrifice their resources And sometimes people tend to think, say, oh, this is unya bebre asana de or the aba. See, if from your little you can't sacrifice, unya bebra, you will not do it. There's a lady who, when they were building the church, he went to ask the pastor, Pastor pillar back we saying, and then they mentioned, also okay, me to a pillar back. Maybe you don't have money to buy something big, but at least you can sacrifice and buy one bag of cement. Maybe you don't have something big, but you can sacrifice and say that how many blocks you need to continue the building. So be a block or be a back we and edu saying 8 cities on blocks 6 inches saying 9 cities or say be a meto be 100 na meto be 50. Let your resource, because when your resource goes there, your heart too is there. Sometimes the reason why I couldn't pass sorry but say ubi be a Ukrainian sorry ubi be a Ukrainian too but so ubi be waha. One day I was there, somebody brought an offering bowl. I said, Pastor, this is something I'm also bringing for the church. One day by now AC we are bokama kame. No be a fixing. One day me want to be so fresh say roof no obefaonka. Those of us who were with us at the beginning of the church, ye praise and worship her. Ye we are also pampa boan. How many of you were here when we were doing those at Jeff? Ye praise and worship her. Shadrach John or ye unyame kesi ye kanfu untimi meno because in future wahana e bugun so no. Where somebody just came and said ye tale ha nyina ye saying. See, you might not have the money to tell the whole auditorium, but look for something worthwhile so that God will remember you for that. And it's all about, it's not normal offering. That's why we started announcing this in November 3rd, day of sacrifice. There are people and to grant November 3rd or my sorry. Mina mbeji. 10th no maba. Meba na matu ewie. Na meja oko. Matthew 6 verse 21. Matthew 6 verse 21. Said, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be. Baby or kuma wono. Or say also na de wo good year day. Ewo. Anywhere your treasure is, your heart is also there. And many of the people who sacrifice from Bible days, Bible records it, and after death you have reward too for that. And so David prepared everything for the kingdom. When you are coming to church, even the offering you are supposed to bring to God, prepare it. That's how we'll be blessed financially. And you are feeling ya ba nyame fie a ye pay offering. See, there are people almost in lower denomination. We a lower denomination. We okay. So we say we are 2 cities, we are 5 cities, we are 10. And to obey so you cry in the pockets na 2 no 1,500 ne waha na amfana ni so. And I 1,112 no wa. Inti e bof na boso decision button. But he said, where your treasure is, there your heart will be. Do you think when I come and I see that this place is not cleaned well, this place, I'll just keep quiet? You can ask him what I've been doing to him. Last time I saw a pastor preaching and he was ministering or say, "Ma anointing farmer na mu pipi na emegu no. Wo pia kama na ebo fo obetua." The anointing for what tiweni. Now, fein anointing afa. What say camera back? Say anointing a family. Anointing be a before be a 20. Why would the pastor be giving such warnings? Because it's a treasure. Yeah, it's a treasure. It's a treasure. And so David prepared himself. I want us to read the Message Bible. 1 Chronicles 29. Message Bible. You've got to do more in this place. You've got to do more in this place. You've got to do. 2 Chronicles 29, verse 1 and 2. He said, then the king addressed the congregation. He said, my son Solomon was singled out and chosen by God to do this. But he's young and untested, and the work is huge. That's why you must play your part. Any part you can play, play it well. Or saying the work is huge. He said, this is not just a place for people to meet each other, but a house for God to meet us. I like it. A house for God to meet us. We don't take sacrifices so that we go and build our houses. We don't take sacrifice so that we can do party. Because when you are expecting a dignitary into obiwa, obu say oma ide oma penti fie no, efie ye chiri paint kra no, omo penti. Why? They are expecting visitors to come. He said, I have done my best to give everything together for building this house for my God. And vari-colored stone for building the house for my God. All the materials necessary: gold, silver, bronze, iron, lumber, precious and vari-colored stones, and building stones, vast stockpiles. Furthermore, because my heart is in this, in addition to and beyond what I have gathered, I am turning over my personal fortune of gold and silver for making this place of worship for my God. 3,000 talents, about 113 tons of gold, all from Ophir, the best, and 7,000 talents, 214 tons of silver, for covering the walls of the buildings, and for the gold and silver work by craftsmen and artisans. Or say, and now, how about you? Who among you is ready and willing to join in the giving? Also, nafi do de benio. By the grace of God, I am gathering how much I'm bringing for that day. And I also want to ask you, how about you? Who is willing? The point is that anybody that brings anything to God, God rewards you. There's nobody who brings anything to God that God doesn't reward. Don't think that we are looking for opportunity to take your things. At least those of us who have been with us for a long time. Steve, we don't even know how much you are bringing. And in case of the batch rodin, now a phone say no. Whatever you bring is between you and your God. Number two, whatever you bring, God sees how much you are bringing. We are not going to create rows, a scaffold row. Me, I should say, the mode ban and yet move on go for and pay. Because sacrifice advice from one person to another. To somebody, when you bring 100 cedis, is the best he or she can bring home. To another person, when you bring 100 cedis, it's just a normal offering. You have not sacrificed. There's a lady who used to be in Archbishop Idahosa's church. And every pastor's conference, she will buy cow and will bring it for them to use it to serve the pastors. Full cow. And you £1. And you £1. Say, what do I just ride in our dorsal? Debut. She'll buy a full cow. No, they are trying to catch. No, they call. And she did it consistently. One day when she got home, her only son was dead. She didn't cry. She didn't weep. One also move for body in took Sakana or didn't train to Muno. Went straight to Archbishop Idahosa's church. Odrono say, Papa Maba. And I said, okay. But in Naba. And I said, I said, so for conference in Drui. No, so we do until the train say Doreno. Ujaho beheading. And I said, okay. Baby, baby, I did tunnel if I got to. I said, there be way they say so far no, but so be answer. Actually, drew a Nippon and China demi. Dead. Laid his hands on him and commanded the dead boy to come back to life by sacrifice. As prayer offered, boy jerked back to life. There are some things you see when you are bringing it. We will spend time, we will pray over it. When you are bringing it, anything you want God to do for you, any special thing you want God, pray over it. Don't see it as a normal day that you are bringing it into God. Pray over it. Whatever you are looking to from God. When Solomon offered the 1,000 sacrifice, God showed up and said, my son Solo, ask me what I shall do today. See, there are some things that moves the heart of God, and one of them is sacrifice. And sacrifice, like I said, number one, you are bringing your heart. Number two, your strength. Number three, your money. When your heart is not with God, your money doesn't do anything. That's the truth. When your heart is not with God, your money doesn't do anything. Now, Stephen, imagine that you are married. Open if you know wife in if you. And our friend say, oh, wait, or some baby member. 4 days, no mefie. 5 days, no aba. Oba no otonyum. You've got to do more in this place. Say, Stephen, baby, I'm a coy, no. We come and send £20,000. You've got to do. Phone out of home, showing signs of what will happen. Stephen, £20,000 obeji. £20,000 obeji. Ade obefie onifie o friend so baby o yo beba baby o so onka 4 days we hunu obefie no denyum. You've got to do more in this place. Lift your voice, let's sing. You've got to do more in this place. 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 Lift your voice. You've got to do more in this place. You've got to do more in this place. You've got to do more in this place. Then away. Where Ube investing. Money first. I say. I did not say. Then I'm ready. Now, baby, or quiet and say, yeah, dear, when you want scan of veggie. What they? What do you call everybody? Why are you not moved by the money? It's because their hearts first must be you. Ada Owusu niti on the onfa akoma no kra so hwe ye keska se ma o se akoma. And so no matter how much you bring, see, the earth is the Lord's, so, and the fullness thereof. There's nothing that you bring that God hasn't seen before. Now imagine say 20,000 pounds or the bebano, you have over 500,000 pounds. Will you be moved by the 20,000 pounds? No. See, many of us understand that there's nothing that we are bringing to God that He said the silver and gold, they are mine. But before you bring it, make sure your heart is with God. If your heart is not with God, Bible said that when you are even bringing your offering to the altar and you remember that your brother has an issue against you, Bible said that go and resolve it first before you come and give your offering. God is not a man that is moved by big money. That's why when you come to church and we see you, we are not asking, then we know how to relate with you. Maybe it doesn't mean that when you come, we want to disrespect you. No. Anybody who comes, whether you have or you don't have, we will treat you well. But the point is that your heart must be with God before your resource. And when your heart is with God, whatever you bring is nothing that you think that, oh, this one, God doesn't deserve it. God doesn't deserve it. And so when Solomon offered a burnt offering, God should have said, Solomon, what shall I do unto thee? We are not talking about offering, so there's a place for offering, but there's a day that we call the day of sacrifice. That whatever you are bringing, you prepare, you gather, and you bring that. Father, take this. See, when you look at Osha salary level, now we share how you gather money to buy a land. Usika nkra say when di na scan da was I who mesa what anu awonye scatter yakwi wenye bia to osin ibia kade ba kra pa de brekusu kra unya. And so one of the ways to break off certain limits, certain levels, is sacrifice. It's sacrifice. Hey, sometimes you give you won't see anything. No. But Bible said in Ecclesiastes 11, let's read. Ecclesiastes 11. You've got to do more in this place. You've got to do. Verse 3. He said, if the clouds be full of rain, what do? He said, they empty themselves upon the earth. Whatever you are bringing to God, they are clouds, they are gathering themselves. Many people they want to gather for their rains to follow. Into a Caribbean idea, but we who know the importance of sacrifice, and we have tested for so many years, people of God, we want to understand that one of the best ways to break out from cycles, to break out from certain limits, is sacrifice. That's the truth. It's not like we are looking for opportunity to get something from you. There are certain jobs you can only get by sacrifice. When you look at yourself, Becky, January and now, haven't you seen a lot of improvement? But how did it happen? One of the ways is through sacrifice. Sometimes it's very painful. Share. Me, I want to take money, at least sizable amount. to undertake my personal project. And as I was in a church, God told me, bring it to Dominion Word. I said, God, should I give you 50% or say no, all? I said, God, why? Have I offended you? Is there anything that I did that, God, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If I did anything, that's why you're, God, please forgive me. Me be me last. He said, you have not done anything, but I need it. When I closed my eyes to pray and I said, oh God, then it's over. And it's not these, a lot of sacrifices that by the grace of God we've done. And God has been blessing us. And we don't want to hoard it all. We want to understand that God honors sacrifices. God. When Jesus presented as a living sacrifice to God, God honored it and said he has given him a name that's above every other name. At the mention of the name Jesus, every knee shall bow. I don't know what you are looking for. Meaning the day will show. But days of sacrifice are opportunities for you to break through and enter certain realms. Because whatever big contract you are looking forward to, obisu shebio. Now no afa baby you. And so your only way to make yourself a spiritual house that offers up spiritual sacrifices is that on that day. So I want to challenge everybody as we bring the service to a close, that if there's anything that you are looking for that you are not getting, place a demand on sacrifice. But number one, your heart must be with God. You can't buy God with your sacrifice, because the other day God has seen bigger and better things than what you are bringing. Also, the silver is mine, the gold is mine. Who is bringing gold that day? Gold. Whatever you are bringing, God has seen it before. But understand that for you to break out from certain limits, it's not the normal thing that we do. When people go for, when they're fraud boys, when they go for blood money, do you think they ask them to bring 200 cedis? If it was that cheap, 200 cedis, no, by now, and young boys are going to casa because we bear the 200 cedis back. They are going for something that will cost you, something that has blood in it, and they bring it. Somebody shared a chat between two fraud boys, and one of them was telling the other person that Sisian and a girlfriend, you please don't be dating those people. Oh. One lady I was talking to say, "Now I'm saying, now boy, you also a boom my a boom mawa, a boom mawa." And I'll say, like, I told him, what does he do? Or say, leave the room. By the time you come back,